Good evening, and welcome to Wednesday Night Bible Study. Tonight we'll be covering Matthew 14. A lot of it we've already, I wouldn't say a lot of it, a good portion of it we've already discussed because of John, the Gospel of John. We discussed the feeding of the 5,000. We covered Peter on the water and John, correct? I mean, I've slept since then, so, you know. But we'll talk about it. There's still some stuff that was hitting in my head. I'm like, did we talk about that or not? So we'll be covering some of that, but you know, we're going to be touching lightly on the feeding of the 5,000, which is still an amazing feat. But let's say. Oh yeah. Because of the harmony of the Gospels, there's going to be times when we're going to repeat a lot of stuff. Kind of like when Jamie's Sunday school discussions, you hit up on some stuff because some of the books rehash things. So, no big deal. So, turn with me to the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 14. And at that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard of the fame of Jesus, And he said unto his servants, This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead, and therefore mighty works do show forth themselves in him. Sounds like someone's a little concerned. Someone might be a little paranoid or worried that something's getting ready to happen because he did something bad. We're going to talk about that. For Herod had laid hold on John and bound him and put him in prison for Herodias' sake, his brother Philip's wife. Dun, 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 dun! Scandal. Scandal. What happened here? Yeah, he took over his brother's wife, Herodias. This is a... go ahead. No. The niece is the one that dances in front of him.
No, I thought she was.
No, not Herodias. Was Herodias his niece? No.
The reason he did that is because John...
We're going to...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah, next verse, as a matter of fact. But yeah, so this is a public figure, a very public figure, who's supposed to be an upright citizen, member of society. And here he is doing the exact thing that shouldn't be done by everyone else. But, of course, Herod had such a high opinion of himself, he went ahead and did it because, what are they going to do? They're going to arrest me? Are the Pharisees and the Sadducees going to come and say, you're bad boy? No, they're afraid of him. They're afraid of him. I mean, you're getting hung tomorrow. That's all it took. And he used that power quite often, yes. For John said unto him, It is not lawful for thee to have her, because it's your brother's wife. I mean, yeah. And when he would have put him to death, he feared the multitude, because they counted him as a prophet. Okay, so he didn't fear the law, but he feared the people. We see the mindset of these folks. Pretty, yeah. But when Herod's birthday was kept, the daughter of Herodias danced before him and pleased Herod. Yes, sir.
There's a reason why Herod feared the people. And it's the same reason that Pilate crucified Jesus.
Right. They could have made a...
Because if the people started to rebel, Herod was put in place by the Roman Empire.
Right. And they wouldn't have appreciated that at all.
They wouldn't appreciate it, and they would have killed him.
Yeah. The Romans were the ones that Herod...
Rebelling, causing problems, then the Romans would have
Yeah.
taken care of him.
Yeah, the Romans were the ones that Herod and Pilate were most scared about. Because you upset the people start to rebel, the Romans get upset, and your head goes rolling down the street. Without your corpse attached, usually. If you're lucky, yeah. Yeah, if you're lucky. And maybe after some prolonged questioning methods. Yeah. So, Joe, Herodias' daughter was not his, that was his niece, correct? That was not his own daughter.
No, that was not his daughter.
Yeah.
It would have been his niece.
It would have been his niece. Yeah. His stepdaughter niece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Herodias was also those two brothers' niece from their family. They are actually her uncles, and she was married to one and married the other.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
I mean,
Royalty does what they want.
yeah, that's what I had.
When you're that high up on the hierarchy, yeah, you do what you want.
Yeah, I think I read that in Herod's history.
Mm.
The history of that family.
I hadn't heard that. I hadn't read that, but I haven't really studied Herod, so you're probably
Well, that's what
And-
I'm asking.
yeah.
I'm sure that what I read in this rally was something.
I think it'd be a good study. You want to teach that one? No. No, yeah,
I'll find out
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to find out. I mean, like I said, it wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. I mean, they act like they're untouchable, so why wouldn't they? You know.
Apparently science has no has no power over them either.
Say again.
Apparently science has no power over them either.
Yeah, science has no power over them either. Yeah, they because they control science, right? Yeah, just like the another group of people these days. But anyways, you know, we'll move on. But when Herod's birthday was kept, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod. Whereupon he promised with an oath to give her whatsoever she would ask. That's a dangerous thing to do for anyone. That's a dangerous thing to do for anyone. Because one, if it's something that would violate your own values or your own way of thinking, your own morals, you're leaving that open because your word is your word. And Herod did this in front of everybody. Yes, sir.
In his defense, it worked for Esther.
It did work for Esther. Yes.
Very well for Esther.
You're very right. It did work for Esther. However, that was more of a God-centered relationship right there. Okay. This, not so much,
I suspect Herodias was as bad as Herod was.
She married her brother's brother. Or she married her husband's brother. So there wasn't a whole lot of that moral compass, would
Pretty skewed with that.
yeah. Wouldn't want to follow that one, just save my life.
The needle was probably about as round as their family tree.
it was a figure eight. Yes, sir.
And Herod also had designs on his niece. If you read verse 6.
Right.
So that just,
Right.
Her mother sacrificed her to her husband to get John taken care of.
Right. But yeah, so he and this is also in front of everybody that was at the gathering. So he has to keep his word. And you see, it's not mentioned. Wait. Yeah. I believe that Herod was actually kind of troubled about her asking for that. But,
So it's safe
yeah.
because the people heard them.
next couple verses.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. But he had to, that was his word, so he had to do it. And she, being instructed of her mother, and we'll find out that in Mark, said, "Give me here John Baptist's head on a charger." Now, this is not a little wall adapter, okay? This is a big plate. All right? Probably had some lettuce around it, maybe some apples or whatever, And she went forth and said unto her mother, yes, here it is, Mark chapter 6, verse 24 and 25. And she went forth and said unto her mother, "What shall I ask?" And she said, "The head of John the Baptist." And she came in straightway with a haste unto the king, and asked, saying, "I wilt that thou give me by and by in a charger the head of John the Baptist."
Meaning the charger was for dramatic effect by her niece.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, well, it was a way to present it. And that's how she wanted it presented. I mean, it'd be wrong for her, somebody to just hold up the head. That'd be rude.
For dramatic
You know.
effects.
Today, on the table, you have chargers underneath your eating plate
Right.
to accent. So it would have to be to show this is what you asked for, this is what you're going to get.
Exactly. Yes. Very good. I forgot that's what those were called. Yep. So anyone who missed that at home, today the chargers are underneath your plate, and that's how it's presented. That's how to say that this is for you. And back to Matthew. And the king was sorry, nevertheless, for the oath's sake, and them which sat with him at meat, he commanded it to be given her. So yeah, he had to keep his word. Yes, sir.
This little tidbit says Salome, the daughter of Herodias, is historically known for dancing for Herod Antipas and requesting the head of John the Baptist on the platter.
Right.
Following this, she lived as a royal, marrying her uncle Philip,
It's what their family tree looks like.
Yeah.
It's one great big, figure eight.
Family tree with no forks.
With no forks, yes.
Becoming Queen of Armenia Minor.
Oh, okay.
Joy.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was a fun time.
Lessons will.
But I mean, look at the time that these people lived in. Who were the two world powers at that time? The Romans and the Greeks. What did they love? Worldly things. So when you are at that level, in order to try to fit in, you adopted the things that were around you. No matter if your God said that that was wrong. And I think we go back to who was their God? Like Saul. Saul did not claim God as his God. He said, your God. He never claimed God as his God. And my thinking is that that was exactly what was going on here. They were Jewish in name only. They were nowhere near what a Jew was supposed to be. They were not ruled by God. They were ruled by the world.
They were Jewish by race.
Jewish by race. There you go. Yeah.
A little bit of the culture after it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, and honestly, we see that today. We see that today. You can have a person who, lives, eats, breathes being a Christian, but when they get up to that level of national status where, people, that your name is known very well, it's, people are like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. All of a sudden, you start adopting the things that the people that you're surrounding yourself with adopted long time ago because you want to fit in with them.
Or you don't want to lose your status.
Or you don't lose your status. Absolutely. It's hard to take a stand for God.
Contemporary Christian artists.
Exactly. There's a great video on YouTube about what's happening to quote-unquote contemporary Christian music. And I put the quote not under contemporary, but Christian. Because a lot of them are just doing it because it's paying them. That's how they're known. But their lifestyle off stage or away from the microphone, away from the main microphone, is not reflecting of what they're claiming to be. And it's really sad. But that's popularity. Because Herod had to keep his word since he was such an upstanding member of society. That's why he had to, yeah. And he sent and beheaded John in prison, and his head was brought in a charger and given to the damsel, and she brought it to her mother. That family puts the fun in dysfunctional. That's, Mom, look what I brought you. See, I did what you told me to do. Isn't this lovely? Yeah. Some serious issues going on in that family. Yeah. Sick. Very. Yeah. And his disciples came and took up the body and buried it and went and told Jesus. And when Jesus heard of it, he departed thence by a ship into a desert place apart. And when the people had heard thereof, they followed him on foot out of the cities. Now Jesus could have taken revenge on Herod and Herodias and Salome, and it would have been righteous. They killed a messenger of God. They murdered a messenger of God for no reason except he upset somebody, and someone else was used to be the tool that got him beheaded. But he was not come to judge, but to save and teach properly the scriptures. He wasn't time yet. I mean, Jesus wouldn't even had to even been in the same vicinity. He could have just thought it, and there's Herod in a pile. That back to the way it came from, dust. He could have just totally dematerialized him with a thought, and we wouldn't have heard about Herod from that point on. And you guarantee that people would have been scared, but that's not what he came to do. That was not his job at that point. Yes, ma'am.
Wasn't Herod the one that had
Oh, probably. I don't know. Did Herod have syphilis, Joe?
One of them did.
Yeah. I remember the saying that one of them did.
I can't remember which one, but
It's a great question for Dr. Google. Do you remember, Joe? It's kind of fitting this Herod.
It was, it was the Herod that was reigning when Jesus was around.
Well, they both reigned when Jesus was around.
By this time.
But was it Jesus?
Which one? Was
The
it
one
Herod?
that was reigning when Jesus was around, when Jesus was born.
They were both reigning, weren't they?
Not this Herod.
I mean, Jesus. No, the first one was before Jesus went to Egypt.
Was that Herod the Great?
That was Herod the Great, because he called himself great. But so in saying, both Herods were around when Jesus was around, because I mean Jesus was a baby.
But he also the one that killed his wife and children because
I mean, syphilis did that to
he
you.
was afraid he would lose the.
Yes, he killed it. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
based on historical accounts by Josephus, it was Herod the Great. Who died
Herod the Great. Yeah.
4 BC. He was historically thought of to die of horrific disease that some formerly suggested was syphilis.
Okay. So it's not necessarily recorded that was syphilis, probably because they hadn't called it that yet. But he died of.
Matched it.
Huh? The symptoms match. Yeah.
Was it called a wasting disease?
Wasting disease is different. Yeah. But it depends on what kind of wasting disease you're talking about, though, too. So several things have been called wasting disease, in times past.
The one that I think you're talking about is typically from AIDS, I'm pretty sure. But
Well, there's a brain wasting disease,
okay, that's true.
and that's what has hit the deer. And if you eat that meat, you'll get it too. Yes, ma'am.
There's also a doctor in Washington said that Herod succumbed to not to gonorrhea, as was commonly thought, but to chronic kidney failure and a wicked genital infection.
Okay. So Josephus records that he died of a wicked infection, and some doctor who only saw the symptom or read about the symptoms said it wasn't gonorrhea, but some wicked genital, which sounds like syphilis. I mean, I can't think of it. I think any genital disease is wicked, but there are ranks. Yes, sir.
But syphilis untreated does cause
Oh yeah, you go crazy.
madness.
Yeah. When it becomes systemic, it
And he was known in history for being
mad.
mad.
Yeah.
So
Yes, ma'am.
I know that some of the National Geographics and all that I've watched, when they've gotten into kings and all back during the Bible, they have said just about every one of them had something.
Oh yeah. It was quite common.
Wicked.
What's that?
They was wicked.
Yes.
Did things.
Yeah. It was very common for the royalties to have some kind of wicked illness that they would die from. Mostly probably because of their habits, what they had come to enjoy. So because they enjoyed life unabashedly, without anyone thinking that they could arrest them.
Whatever Satan put in their head, they did.
Whatever Satan put in their head, they did pretty much. They did that which was right in their own eyes. Yep. And Jesus went forth and saw a great multitude and was moved with compassion toward them, and he healed their sick. And when it was evening, his disciples came to him, saying, "This is a desert place, and the time is now past. Send the multitude away, that they may go into the villages and buy themselves victuals," food. But Jesus said unto them, "They need not depart. Give ye them to eat." And they say unto them, "We have here but 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And he said, "Bring them hither to me." And he commanded the multitude to sit down on the grass, and took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes. Joe, is there any record of what those 2 fishes were? I can't imagine that they were like anchovies or herrings, but they definitely weren't like oarfish or anything like that. Or even tuna. Yeah.
I've never seen anything indicating what kind of fish they were.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Where they are, the fish would have come out of the Sea of Galilee,
Right.
and there are numerous
Species.
species of
Yeah.
fish
Right.
in the Sea of Galilee.
So it could have been anything.
Regardless, it wasn't enough.
Well, not until Jesus was ready.
Galilee features 18 indigenous fish species, with tilapia being the most famous.
So it's possible it was, because tilapia gets it. Tilapia is pretty big, and if you're gonna have fish on you, might as well make it a worthwhile.
Also have Galilee sardines, carp, and catfish.
If I wasn't carp, catfish would have been off the table because it's a bottom feeder.
Right.
Correct.
That would
So.
be against the law.
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
So more than likely it would
Probably tilapia.
have been tilapia, sardines, or carp.
And that would be sardines.
Correct.
I mean, Jesus could have made it happen, but I doubt it was sardines. I mean, who's going to take 5 loaves and 2 sardines? I mean, you're just having 5 loaves and bones. And looking up to heaven, he blessed and brake and gave the loaves unto his disciples, and the disciples to the multitudes. And they did all eat and were filled, and they took up the fragments that remained, 12 baskets full. We talked about what 12 baskets was all about, 12 tribes. And as we discussed in the Gospel of John, when God provides, he does so completely and without reservation. He's going to do it the right way, and you're not going to go away hungry. I just, I would love to have been there to find out not the 5 original loaves or the 2 original fish tasted like, but what Jesus served afterwards. Whoo! Yeah, that would have been yum, I'm sure. And they that had eaten were about 5,000 men, beside women and children. Now that's 5,000 men's head count. Okay, we're not talking about the women, the children. We're talking about the men. Okay, conservatively, you could probably say easily 10,000 people that Jesus fed with 5 loaves and 2 fish. He does what he wants. God does what he wants, and he did this through Jesus. Simple enough. You can't, as Joe said in the past, and a lot of other pastors I've heard said in the past, you can't outgive God. It's just impossible. You can't. And straightway Jesus constrained his disciples to get into a ship and to go before him unto the other side. Now, do you think that Jesus knew what was going to happen on the sea when he told them, just go ahead and, y'all get over here. I'm going to stay with them for a little bit. I got some other business I want to tend to. Y'all just go ahead and I'll meet you out there. Yeah, he knew exactly what was going to happen while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up to a mountain apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone. But the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the 4th watch of the night, Jesus went unto them. Now, 4th watch of the night, that would have been 10 o'clock. Because it's after 6. 6, 7, 8, 9,
Probably 10.
10, yeah. So 10 o'clock at night, Jesus went unto them walking on the sea. Just out for a little stroll. Just going to kick some waves. Maybe make a couple splashes with the puddles and stuff. It's fun. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It is a spirit." They cried out for fear. Yeah, you think so? I would totally see myself doing the same thing. I don't care. Dude, something's following us, and it ain't natural. I mean, that should not be happening.
Their vision was likely obscured as well.
Yeah, so it would have been even more obscured, but, I don't think, you put somebody out on the water that late at night, and you're not going to be able to make out whether it's a spirit or Jesus. I don't care how long you've been spending time with Jesus. Or if your vision was obscured, there's a ghost out there. When was the last time you saw somebody walking in the water in the middle of a storm? I can count on 0 fingers how many times I've seen it. Unless they're on stones. And even then, they weren't out in the storm. I would have freaked out too. Simple enough. I can't blame them for doing that. But straightway Jesus spoke unto them, saying, "Be of good cheer, it is I. Be not afraid." Nope, you're still not convincing me. Ghosts can say that too. Davy Jones wasn't dead yet, but his locker was still active. And it might have been, someone that was sleeping on the fishes. And Peter answered him and said, "Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water." Again, Why are you trusting something that you can't know for sure that is not a ghost, that's wanting to take you down with them? It's faith. That's it. That's it. Now, granted, I would love to have gone out there walking on the water with Peter. That would have been so cool.
It's probably also the reason why only Peter asked about it.
Yeah, the boisterous one. Yeah. And he said, come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried, saying, Lord, save me. Just 6 chapters ago, we heard the same cry in Matthew chapter 8, verse 25, when the ship that Jesus was sleeping in was being tossed by a tempest. And immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? He doubted when he saw the angry waves of the world swelling around him. And when we take our eyes off Jesus, it's easy to think that the world's winning over us. I know I've felt that same way. I know of a lot of y'all have. But we've got to keep our eyes looking up. Because it's easy to you look up and you look at the world and what's going on in the world, and you just feel it spinning around and it's starting to suck you in. And guarantee that's what Peter felt like. His feet were starting to, get deeper in the water. It doesn't say how far he made it down, knees, hips, chest, but at any rate, he felt himself sinking. Just a few seconds ago, he was walking on water. And the Lord only knows how deep it is at that point. I don't think Peter could have touched ground. Not without some help. Or not without looking way up into the darkness, But we need to remind ourselves who made the world. Who can control the world with a thought? We need to keep our eyes looking up toward Jesus and bask in his light. Because when we start looking at Jesus, the world just disappears. Not as much as we'd like to, but we need to remember that the book's been written. We know the ending. The world doesn't win. Matter of fact, the world takes a big loss, a big L, great big L. Jesus never took an L. Jesus has a perfect record. And the psalmist reminds us in Psalm 107, verses 28 to 30, then they cry unto the Lord in their trouble, and he bringeth them out of their distresses. He maketh the storm a calm, so that the waves thereof are still. And then they are glad because they be quiet, so he bringeth them unto their desired haven. Psalm 40, verses 1 through 3. I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined unto me and heard my cry. He brought me up also out of the horrible pit in the miry clay, and he set my feet upon a rock and established my goings. And he hath put a new song in my mouth, even praise unto our God. Many shall see it and fear and shall trust in the Lord. Psalm 145, verses 18 and 19. The Lord is nigh unto all them that call upon him, to all that call upon him in truth. He will fulfill the desire of them that fear him. He will also hear their cry and will save them. Now, of all the things that Jesus has to listen to throughout the entire day, he has to listen to everyone else's prayers. He has to listen to their curses. He has to listen to the false gospels going around. He still hears our cries personally. When I cry out to the Lord, he hears Jeremy's voice. Out of everything else, he hears my voice also. And he hears it distinctly. And he answers it. I just got to be able to let my heart know that that's what it's feeling right then and there. That I don't have to worry. Because God's got this. And I don't have to do a thing except keep my eyes on him and have faith. And, again, going back to how Peter must have felt, with the world closing in around you and everything seems to be going the way that the world wants it to, Jesus can pull us up out of that miry clay. I don't know if y'all have been stuck in clay before, especially alone, but the best feeling is when your feet are back on solid ground and you're not feeling like you're sinking some more. Every time you try to move or shift or whatever, and you feel that clay that suction that clay loves to pull on you.
Saying at the beach is that way too.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. But getting pulled out of that or getting yourself out of that, the Lord providing you with the means to get out of that, and then feeling that firm foundation afterwards, that firm terra firma, instead of the miry, watery, sucky stuff. That day just improved a ton. And that's all we can feel, just knowing that God's right there. And when they were coming to the ship, the wind ceased. And they that were in the ship came and worshipped him, saying, Of a truth, thou art the Son of God. But yeah, he was out walking on the waters. Who else do you think he was? I mean, he didn't have to say, calm the storm this time. He just got on the boat. Okay, we're going to behave. The winds and the waves, no, we're going to stop. And when they were gone over, they came into the land of Gennesaret. And when the men of that place had knowledge of him, they sent out into all that country round about, and brought unto him all that were diseased, and besought him that they might only touch the hem of his garment, and as many as touched were made perfectly whole. Again, going back to the faith that they had, that he didn't have to lay hands on them. Just
It wasn't a garment. It was the faith that they had.
yeah, it had nothing to do with the clothes you wore. There's nothing that Jesus touched back then that is still holding any power that he had. It was simply that Jesus, the faith in Jesus was what healed them. I mean, I know we've all heard the stories about the Nazis and the search for the Holy Grail, the search for Jesus, the spear that pierced Jesus' side, the clothes that he wore, the tomb that he slept in, that he was buried in, the pieces of the crucifix. It's got to hold all this mysterious power and everything. The only power it holds is what you give it. That's all. Jesus didn't leave anything behind when he left, because he knew that we would worship it, or it would fall into the wrong hands, and it would be used for purposes that the world would use it for. So
That's the reason that the brazen serpent had to be destroyed.
exactly, the same reason that brazen serpent had to be destroyed, because the people lost sight of what the purpose of the brazen serpent was for. It was to turn their eyes. It was a picture of what we're supposed to do to Jesus. Just look in the direction. Didn't have to actually see it. Just look in the direction and know that you would be healed. That's what Jesus does. But it's all about faith. If you don't have that faith, you believe in fairy tales.
I know
You-
that when I accepted the Lord, it was by faith,
Absolutely.
and it happened so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It was that surrender.
Yeah,
Is when the Lord touches you with that,
that's right.
and the Holy Spirit enters you.
Absolutely.
It's just wonderful.
Yep. Yep. And the nice part about it being faith is that there's nobody can take responsibility for it. Nobody can take credit for it. Simply, God gets the glory. That's the whole idea of faith. Somebody didn't write it up. Somebody didn't make it up in their head, and that's the prayer that Saint Archibald said. Therefore, that's what's going to save you. No, none of that. None of that. All of that is man-made. And man gets the glory. God doesn't. They say God gets the glory, but no. The man that came up with it, the woman that came up with it, the church that came up with it, they get the glory. Because that's where it's going to be remembered. That's how it's going to be remembered. It's not going to be what came out of God's word. It's what came out of man's word. So, it's... And again, that's why I believe that there are no more miracles right now, because man would end up, and we saw this in Maine, so many times you would hear someone's house caught on fire, and somebody would claim that somewhere on that burnt piece of wood was a face of Mary, or it was a face of Jesus, or it was a halo on that wood, and people would literally come and want to touch that piece of wood simply to feel the power of charcoal. That's all they were feeling. But that's what happens when people do. They have to have something that they can tangibly touch. Yes, sir.
I've never
Oh, yes. That river valley had such an oppressive energy in it. And you don't really feel it until you get out of there and then come back. And that's when it just kind of, whoa. It's a weight that you feel. And once you leave, it's gone. The smell's still there. And you have to burn those clothes because you ain't washing that out. We tried. You don't realize until if you've lived there any amount of time, especially if you live there while the mill is making it stink, and we're talking rotten cabbage smell, that's the smell that gets in your clothes. And because you get nose blind to it, you don't realize it until you get down here where, the air's not the purest, but it's a whole lot better. And then you put your clothes on, and you're like, oh, man, I offend myself. But, that whole area was just, there was some serious negative energy in that area. And with all the churches that they had there, you wouldn't believe, how oppressed that area was. And you have to go see it, and feel it. It doesn't take a whole lot, especially when you haven't grown up around it.
Hohenwald, Tennessee's that way to me.
Really?
I was there 4 years. The worst 4 years of my life.
No kidding. Hohenwald. Okay.
You feel the demons right there as soon as you go in.
Wow.
And just out of town,
Kind of glad we just drove through those couple times.
Gaskin's Farm, which is hippie farm, and I've learned since then that they are giving the orphans to the farm.
Really? Oh, that's a great place for them to be. What a wonderful way to grow up. Well, these are the folks when God's people don't do anything, the world takes over and they do whatever they want. So, I wish we had more resources because the world has lots and God's got lots, but the world's going to have its way. So, as we always say, like, subscribe, ask all the beautiful questions, leave your comments and questions at the end, and share with your friends. Do we have anything else to go over, discuss? I mean, anything from the lesson? All right. Told you it would be early night. We still have 20 minutes. Sister Melissa, would you please